So start off really light here, just mapping the shadow shapes around the eyes and the nose. No details yet, and definitely no commitment. Just mapping out the overall shape, structure, and also the foundations. I'm basically asking myself, where is the light and where is the shadow? I'm also working from left to right. That just to avoid dragging my hand through the graphite and smudging everything I've already done. It's one of those small habits that saves you a lot of frustration later. At this stage, I'm simplifying everything into those big shapes. I'm not thinking this is an eye or this is a nose. I'm thinking in terms of abstract patches of tone and light. If you can train yourself to see like that, your drawings will become a lot more realistic and you'll improve fast. I'm constantly squinting my eyes, looking at the reference photo and also my drawing to see if the tones line up. Give it a try. If you're having problems, squinting your eyes blurs the subject and helps you see the tones more easily. You can also see I'm keeping the pressure pretty light. That's intentional. It gives me room to adjust and correct without fighting the paper. Now I'm just starting to connect those shadow shapes together. Instead of isolated bits, I'm grouping them into one larger shadow mass. This is huge. If your shadows feel connected, your drawing immediately looks more cohesive. I'm keeping the edges quite soft for now. Nothing is fully refined yet, so that comes later. As I build this up, I'm constantly thinking about contrast. A lot of drawings fall flat because everything sits in the same mid-tone. I'm already planning where my darkest darks are going to be, especially around the eye socket and under the nose. If you're finding this helpful so far and you want to improve your portraits and also your drawing skills, subscribe to the Portrait Guru. I break this sort of stuff down regularly and keep it practical so you can actually apply it in your drawings. And give it a like whilst you're there. Now I'm starting to push some of these darker values a bit more. Not all at once, I'm layering them gradually. I'd much rather go over an area 3 or 4 times than try to hit the final value straight away and overshoot it. This is also where I'm thinking about the Terminator. That transition between light and shadow is one of the most important things for describing form. If you get that edge right first, the face turns in space and feels more three-dimensional. You'll notice I'm not blending everything smooth either. I'm letting some of the pencil marks show, but I'm controlling the direction of them. And that's another key point. I'm following the form with my shading. Around the cheek, the strokes curve slightly. Around the eye socket, they wrap around the structure. That subtle change reinforces the 3D effect without needing extra detail. At this point, I'm starting to refine the eye area a little bit more. I'm thinking in values first, details second. It's very easy to jump into eyelashes and tiny features too early, but that usually weakens the drawing overall. And here's a quick one. What do you find hardest when drawing or shading? Is it getting things smooth or is it figuring out where the shadows should go? Drop it down in the comment section below. I'm really interested to hear and it helps me know what to cover next. Now I'm building up the midtones. This is where the drawing starts to feel more complete. I'm bridging the gap between the light areas and the dark shadows so nothing feels disconnected. I'm still being careful not to rush. Every layer is quite controlled, quite deliberate. You can see I've also started to develop the hair, but again, I'm not drawing individual hair strands. I'm blocking in the overall shape and value first. I can push things a little bit further with a fresh pair of eyes. I'm deepening the shadows again, especially around the eye and under the cheekbone. This is where the contrast really starts to bring the portrait to life. So now I'm tightening some of the edges. Not everything should be sharp. In fact, most edges should stay quite soft. But having a few sharper edges, especially around the focal points like the eyes, helps guide the viewer's attention. I'm constantly comparing values as well, asking myself, is this area darker than that one? Should this edge be softer? Should this shadow connect more? That constant comparison is what keeps everything balanced. At this stage, it's less about adding new things and more about refining, adjusting values, smoothing transitions where needed, and making sure the whole drawing feels unified. And that's the real key takeaway here. Start with the big shapes, build your values slowly, think in terms of light and shadow, and let the details come at the end. Now that everything's in place, this is where I slow down a bit mentally and start really observing. I'm not rushing anymore. I'm looking at the drawing as a whole and asking myself what feels slightly off. Usually it's subtle value shifts. Maybe a shadow needs to be darker, or a transition needs softening. If something stands out too much or disappears completely, it's usually a value issue. I'm also checking edges carefully now. You'll also notice I put a piece of paper over in the areas where I've already shaded. That's just to protect them whilst I work, and also stops me from smudging and getting all that graphite on the side of my hand as I'm drawing. It also keeps the values clean, especially when you're going back in with darker tones. Edges do a lot of work in a portrait. Some areas, like around the cheek or jaw, I'm keeping quite soft so they blend into the form. Other areas, like the eyes and parts of the lips, I'm sharpening slightly to bring focus. If everything is sharp, nothing stands out. If everything is soft, it all feels blurry. That's the contrast between the two that makes it feel realistic. Now I'm going back into some of the midtones and just even them out a little bit. This is where patience really pays off. It's not about the big changes anymore. It's small adjustments that really add up. You'll notice I'm still using quite a light pressure, even at this stage. That keeps the surface of the paper intact and avoids that overly shiny, overworked look when you sometimes get with graphite. Another thing I'm doing here is slightly darkening the darkest areas again. As you build up midtones, your darks can start to feel less strong by comparison, so it's worth revisiting them at the end. That helps restore that full value range from your lightest lights to your darkest darks. I'm also being careful not to lose the highlights. Sometimes it's just about touching up certain areas and let the paper do the work. Those lighter areas around the cheekbone and nose are what gives this drawing a sense of light hitting the face. Drawing hair works best when you treat it as a mass, not a collection of lines. Now I'm turning the drawing upside down. This is something I do quite a lot because it forces me to stop seeing a face and start seeing shapes again. It makes mistakes stand out instantly, proportions, angles, values. Everything becomes cleaner and clearer. If something looks off, turn it upside down. It always works. If needed, you can lift out a bit of a graphite with your eraser, but I try to preserve those areas from the start rather than constantly correcting. Now I'm just refining the hair slightly more. Again, still thinking of shapes. I might suggest a few strands here and there, but I'm not trying to draw every single strand. Less is usually more. At this point, I'll often take a step back, even physically if I can, just to see the drawing from a distance. It's surprising how much clearer things look when you're not right up close. And also, it's really important you take breaks as well. You can immediately spot if something feels unbalanced or if one area is pulling too much attention. Final few adjustments here. Just tweaking values, softening a couple of edges, and making sure everything feels consistent across the whole portrait. And then that's pretty much it. Let me know how you got on in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, I recommend this video coming up.